Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Poppin' with Trinitee. And what's popping in my world this week is the Black Lives Matter movement. Recently, I had the opportunity of participating in a Black Lives Matter movement protest, and it was just amazing to be out there and to just feel the energy and seeing everyone rallying around the same cause, which is justice for George Floyd, and seeing everyone rally around the need to end police brutality and racial injustice. It was really life-changing, to be honest with you. And it was also amazing to look around and notice that it wasn't just African Americans out there protesting. It was people of all different races, religions, and ethnicities out there rallying around the same cause. But when I was out there protesting, it really got me thinking. I mean, it's great that the officers that are charged in George Floyd's death, it's great that they've been charged, and the officers are Derek Chauvin, Alexander Kueng, Thomas Lane, and Tao Thao. And Derek has been charged with second-degree murder, and the other officers have been charged with aiding and abetting in a crime. That's great that they've been charged, but it really boils down to who the jury is. Because if the jury is made up of white cops or white ex-cops, or even if the jury is made up of racists, these officers could possibly not be found guilty in the obvious death that they participated in. And that's not something that we want. But even with this, because as citizens, we don't have the opportunity of choosing who the jury is going to be made out of. But it really boils down to education and the lack thereof. But during this time, it's very important that parents of my generation and the next generation take this time to not sweep this under the rug, not to sweep police brutality and racial injustice under the rug, and don't sweep racial profiling under the rug. To take this time and teach their kids about what is happening in the world around them, to educate them on what could happen with an African American person and what could happen with them if they got into a situation with the police. Because racism, you aren't born a racist. You're taught racism. You're taught that. So if you're taught racism, then you can be taught to not be a racist. So I think that it's very important that we take these steps to teach people how to not be racist, so that way this generation and the next generation to come will not have to deal with these acts of police brutality and racial injustice. But I think that this boils down to also the leaders that we have. The current leader of the USA, he's not engaging in uniting people. He's uniting in dividing us as Americans, and he focuses on what makes us different. And he doesn't focus on what unites us. He doesn't focus on the fact that we're all human beings, no matter what our skin color is. He doesn't focus that we all live in America, or the fact that we all need the same things to breathe and live, or if you cut us, that we'll all bleed red. He doesn't focus on that. He focuses on dividing us as people, and he focuses on things like that, which is another reason why racism is starting to come back in such an unprecedented manner, and the reason that it is fueling in the way that it is. But I think that this is also a time to think about ways that we can cause police reform, thinking about policies that we can help create and petitions that we can sign to bring forth police reform. And I was also thinking, what's a way that we can educate our cops? Because all cops are not bad. That is a horrible stigma that has recently been placed on the police, and that's just not true. It's just the bad cops are getting more attention than the good ones. But I think that if cops are taught in the police academy not to racially profile people and to not be afraid of black men when they're walking down the street, or if they see them with a black bag or something like that, if they're taught not to racially profile, then maybe we wouldn't have cases like George Floyd. Then maybe that would be the case. But if they're taught instead of these things how not to racially profile and how not to use their authority in such a horrible way, they're taught how to use a taser. They're taught how to use their guns, and they're taught how to use their authority to bring death among the black and brown community. But these are things that they're taught instead of how to de-escalate a situation. Instead, sometimes the police officers, they fuel into a possibly rapidly escalating situation. But going back to leaders, something that happened a couple weeks ago that was absolutely amazing was in Washington, D.C. The mayor of Washington, Mayor Bowser, she took it upon herself to paint the street leading up to the White House in big yellow block letters that Black Lives Matter. And she changed the name of the street, also leading up to the White House, to Black Lives Matter Plaza. I just think that's amazing. I think that's a great way to peacefully bring awareness to Black Lives Matter and to use your authority in a great and graceful manner. She found a way to make change that she could do, and she did it. So I applaud you, Mayor Bowser. Way to go. And I think that you have done a great job, because these big yellow block letters, they can be seen from space. So even the astronauts up there, they can see from space that Black Lives Matter. And I think that that's absolutely amazing. That's a great way to use your voice for change. But something else that we as youth can do is to use our social media platforms. Things like Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook. These are all platforms that our leaders are looking at. They're looking to us to see, how do we feel about this? So I think that this is a great time for us to use our voices on these social platforms to bring awareness to Black Lives Matter and to bring awareness to what's happening in these police brutality moments that sometimes have been overlooked. Because George Floyd, he's not the first case of his kind. He's not the first death of his kind, but he's one of the few that have been caught on camera. So because this is one of the few deaths of police brutality that's been caught on camera, think of all the other cases that haven't been caught on camera and the guilty cops that have gotten away with committing a horrendous crime. So those are things that we just kind of have to think about. But I also kind of want to focus in on what we can do as youth. Because when I was out protesting, a lot of the people there were millennials and they were teenagers and they were just about to reach the voting age. So just because you're young, don't let people tell you that you can't make change. And don't let people tell you that you cannot bring awareness to racial injustice, because you can. So I've been thinking about ways that I can do that and kind of talking to my friends that look different than me. So I want to encourage you guys to sit down and have conversations with your friends and your peers that look different than you and talk it out, talk about the things that make you different, but more importantly, hone in on what makes you guys the same. Hone in on what unites you guys and what unifies you guys, and see how you can make change. Even if you start out making change locally, even a small step is the right step. It's a step in the right direction. So those are things that we have to focus on and ways that we can make change even as youth. So I hope that you guys take the time to have these type of conversations with your friends and family, because I know that I have, and I want to do what I can to bring awareness to this movement. Stay tuned to see what's popping in my world next week. I love you guys, and make sure to tell someone that you know that you love them. Make sure to comment down below and subscribe. Catch you next week. Bye.